This is a tale of ancient empires where kings built cities in impossible places, where prophets changed the world, where the rise and fall of civilizations echo through time. From the hidden valleys of Persia to the sacred hills of the Holy Land, these are lands where conquest, exile, and return have shaped destinies for over 3,000 years. This is where fire has burned continuously for 1,500 years, where palaces rival anything built by Rome, where underground cities hide beneath desert sands. This is where faith was born, where empires clashed, where ancient wisdom still guides modern innovation. These are Iran and Israel. Welcome back to another Cultureverse exclusive. Rising from the Iranian plateau, like a stone dream, stands Persepolis, the ceremonial capital of the greatest empire the ancient world had ever seen. Here, 2,500 years ago, the Persian king sat on a throne of gold. Representatives from 23 nations climbed these very steps carrying tribute. Gold from Lydia, horses from Scythia, ivory from Ethiopia. The wealth of 3 continents flowed through these halls. When Alexander the Great arrived in 330 BCE, he found a city so magnificent it took his breath away. Then he burned it to the ground. Yet even Alexander couldn't destroy what Persian architects achieved here. These stone reliefs still show the faces of ancient peoples. They traveled thousands of miles to honor the Persian king. Hidden beneath the platform lie chambers that archaeologists are only now beginning to explore. Recent archaeological work has uncovered what appeared to be sealed chambers containing cuneiform tablets. These seem to be ancient accounting records that may detail payments to workers from across the known world. Greek stonemasons, Egyptian artists, Babylonian scribes, all worked together on Persepolis, history's first international construction project. Ground-penetrating radar suggests royal tombs beneath the platform that have never been opened. They possibly contain Persian treasures that could rival Tutankhamun's tomb. Stand here at sunset, and you can still feel the power that once ruled from India to Greece. The wind carries whispers of a lost world, a world where tolerance and artistry reached heights that wouldn't be seen again for centuries. Jerusalem rises from the Judean hills like a city of gold. Its limestone walls glow in the desert sun. This is one of the most fought-over pieces of real estate in human history. Conquered over 30 times by different empires over 3,000 years. Yet it endures, sacred to half the world's population. In the heart of the old city stands the Western Wall. all that remains of the Second Temple, destroyed by Rome in 70 CE. Here, worshippers slip prayers written on paper into cracks between ancient stones. The stones themselves tell stories. The largest weigh over 570 tons, placed by Herod the Great's engineers using techniques we still don't fully understand. Beneath your feet lie the Western Wall tunnels, revealing passages and chambers from the lost temple. In these hidden spaces, archaeologists have found coins, pottery, and inscriptions. They bring biblical stories to life. The tunnel system extends for approximately 1,500 feet underground, following what archaeologists believe was the original Temple Mount's western wall. Recent discoveries include a massive stone weighing over 600 tons, among the largest building blocks ever found in the ancient world. Archaeological interpretations often involve scholarly debate rather than definitive conclusions. When we say archaeologists believe or evidence suggests, we're acknowledging that new discoveries regularly refine our understanding. The archaeology adds layers to the story of a city that has maintained its spiritual significance, despite conquest after conquest. Here's where our geographic journey reveals its first surprising connection. In the windswept valley of Pasargadae stands the simple stone tomb of Cyrus the Great. The only inscription reads, "I am Cyrus, King of Kings. I was a good man." This is the man who changed the relationship between Iran and Israel forever. In 586 BCE, Jerusalem lay in ruins. The Babylonian king had destroyed Solomon's temple. He forced the Jewish people into exile. But when the Persian king Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon in 539 BCE, he did something no conquering king had ever done before. He freed the Jewish people and paid for rebuilding their temple with Persian gold. The Cyrus cylinder, discovered in Babylon and now in the British Museum, records this revolutionary decree, written in cuneiform script. It allows all peoples to return to their places and rebuild their temples. For the first time in history, a conqueror granted religious freedom to defeated peoples. You can visit both ends of this incredible story today. In Jerusalem, you can touch the Western Wall, built with stones purchased with Persian coins, carved by Persian-trained craftsmen. Cyrus issued what many historians consider among the earliest charters promoting religious tolerance. Persian tolerance, while remarkable for its time, operated within the practical needs of empire management. Local Iranians still bring flowers to his tomb, honoring the king who showed that empires could be built on accommodation rather than destruction. High above the Dead Sea stands Masada, a fortress that witnessed one of history's most tragic last stands. Built by Herod the Great as an impossible desert palace, it became the final refuge of Jewish rebels fighting the might of Rome. In 73 CE, 960 men, women, and children watched from these walls. 15,000 Roman soldiers built a massive siege ramp up the mountain's western face. The ramp still stands today, a monument to Roman engineering and Jewish defiance. For months, the defenders held out. Sustained by ancient water systems that Herod's engineers had carved into the living rock, the cisterns could hold 40,000 cubic meters of water, enough to last years. You can still see these chambers today, along with the Roman camps that ring the mountain like stone scars. 8 camps housed the Roman legion, their outlines still visible in the desert. When defeat became inevitable, the rebels made a choice that still echoes through history. Rather than face slavery, they chose to die free. Only 7 survived to tell their story. 2 women and 5 children who hid in the water cisterns. Their voices, preserved by the historian Josephus, still whisper across these windswept stones. The leader, Eleazar ben Yair, gave a speech that Josephus recorded. "Let us die free men, rather than live as slaves." Today, Israeli soldiers take their oath on this mountain, swearing Masada shall not fall again. The ceremony connects modern Israel to ancient Jewish resistance, making this desert fortress a symbol of national determination. At 1,400 feet below sea level, the Dead Sea marks the lowest point on Earth's surface. This is no ordinary lake. Its waters are 10 times saltier than any ocean, so dense that your body floats like a cork. The salt concentration reaches 34%, compared to 3.5% in regular seawater. Ancient Romans knew its healing properties. Cleopatra had cosmetics made from Dead Sea mud shipped to her palaces. King Herod built winter palaces along its shores. The Essenes who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls believed its waters had purifying powers. But the Dead Sea is dying. Each year, it shrinks by approximately 3 feet, leaving behind sinkholes that can swallow buildings without warning. Over 3,000 sinkholes have appeared in the last decade, forcing the closure of roads and tourist facilities. Where lush oases once flourished, bizarre salt formations now rise like alien sculptures. The Ein Gedi Springs, where David hid from King Saul 3,000 years ago, still flow with fresh water, creating pockets of life in an increasingly desolate landscape. Ibex still come to drink at springs that have flowed continuously since biblical times. Date palms that may be descended from ancient orchards still provide shade for the few remaining oases. Yet this dying sea holds medical secrets. Its black mud contains 26 different minerals found nowhere else on Earth. Today, researchers are discovering that these same minerals might hold keys to treating skin diseases, arthritis, and respiratory problems. Float in these impossible waters at sunset. You'll experience something no other place on Earth can offer. The sensation of weightlessness, combined with the knowledge that you're literally at the bottom of the world. Rising from Iran's central desert like a mirage made real stands Yazd, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities on Earth. For over 3,000 years, this city has thrived in one of the world's harshest environments. Sustained by engineering so advanced that modern architects still study its principles. Yazd's skyline is unlike anywhere else. Dozens of tall towers called wind catchers rise above the mud brick houses, creating natural air conditioning that cools the city even when desert temperatures reach 120 degrees. These towers channel cool underground air through the city, while exhausting hot air above. The city sits above what researchers believe is an ancient qanat system, underground channels that may carry mountain water through dozens of miles of tunnels to supply the desert city. Some of these qanats are over 1,000 years old and still function perfectly. The engineering required precise calculations of gradient and distance that rival modern water systems. But Yazd's greatest treasure burns in a fire temple, where flames have been maintained for over 1,500 years. Though like all sacred fires, they have been ceremonially relit during times of invasion and change. Here, Zoroastrian priests tend sacred fires using traditions that their ancestors established before the time of Christ. The religion that gave the world the concepts of good versus evil, heaven and hell, final judgment and resurrection still survives in this ancient city. The fire temple contains flames that were originally lit in 470 CE, making them among the oldest continuously maintained fires in human history. Zoroastrian pilgrims travel from around the world to pray before these sacred flames, including communities from India, where Zoroastrians fled during Islamic conquests. Walk through Yazd's narrow alleys at dawn. You'll hear Islamic calls to prayer, mixing with Zoroastrian fire ceremonies that are older than Islam itself. This is where Persia's pre-Islamic past meets its Islamic present, creating cultural harmony that has survived for over 1,300 years. Along Israel's Mediterranean coast rise the ruins of Caesarea, the impossible city that Herod the Great built to prove that Jewish engineering could rival anything in Rome. Here, 2,000 years ago, stood a deep-water harbor where none should exist, created by dropping massive concrete blocks into 120 feet of open ocean. Herod's architects invented a new type of underwater concrete, using volcanic ash from Italy. creating structures so strong that parts still stand today. The harbor could shelter 300 ships, making this dusty stretch of coastline one of the busiest ports in the Roman Empire. The engineering required moving 24,000 cubic meters of Kirkar stone and creating breakwaters that extended 1,500 feet into the sea. The hippodrome could seat 10,000 spectators for chariot races. The amphitheater offered perfect acoustics for 4,000 people. Herod's palace, built on a promontory jutting into the sea, commanded views that impressed even Roman emperors. Fresh water was carried 10 miles through aqueducts that can still be traced across the coastal plain. Here, Pontius Pilate ruled Judea from his headquarters. An inscription bearing his name was discovered in 1961, confirming his historical existence. Here, the Apostle Paul was imprisoned for 2 years before being sent to Rome for trial. The Talmud records that Rabbi Akiva, one of Judaism's greatest scholars, was tortured to death in Caesarea's amphitheater during the Bar Kokhba revolt. Today, as waves crash against Herod's ancient breakwaters, archaeologists continue to find treasures beneath the waves, statues, coins, and inscriptions that tell the story of a king who dared to compete with Rome itself. Underwater excavations have revealed Herod's palace harbor, complete with swimming pools fed by the sea. In caves overlooking the Dead Sea, one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century lay hidden for 2,000 years. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd boy chasing a lost goat threw a stone into a dark cave. He heard something break. That sound changed our understanding of ancient Judaism and early Christianity forever. The caves contained over 900 manuscripts, the Dead Sea Scrolls, hidden in clay jars by a Jewish sect called the Essenes. Among them were the oldest known copies of Hebrew Bible books, some dating to 300 BCE. The Isaiah scroll, found almost perfectly preserved, matched modern Hebrew Bibles with stunning accuracy across 1,000 years of copying. But the scrolls revealed something even more extraordinary. The Essenes who lived in this desert monastery had created a community unlike anything else in the ancient world. They shared all possessions, practiced ritual baptism, believed they were preparing for the end times. The community rule scroll describes their beliefs. All who enter the covenant shall confess, saying, "We have acted wickedly, we and our fathers before us." Some scholars believe John the Baptist may have lived among them before beginning his ministry. The parallels are striking. Both practiced baptism in the Jordan River. Both preached repentance. Both spoke of coming judgment. War Scroll describes a final battle between the Sons of Light and Sons of Darkness. That resembles Christian apocalyptic literature. The scrolls also contain previously unknown psalms, commentaries on biblical books, and calendrical texts that show how the Essenes calculated religious festivals. Their calendar was different from the one used in Jerusalem's temple, creating religious conflict that may have driven them into the desert. Standing in the ruins of Qumran today, with the Dead Sea spreading blue-white below and desert cliffs rising above, you can imagine the intensity of faith that drove people to choose this harsh exile. Their hidden library preserved voices from the ancient world that we thought were lost forever. In the heart of Iran stands a city so beautiful that 400 years ago, travelers called it half the world. Isfahan's Royal Square stretches larger than Moscow's Red Square, surrounded by architecture that seems to capture light itself. The tile work on the Shah Mosque shifts color throughout the day. Blues deepening to turquoise, gold highlights appearing and disappearing like magic. But Isfahan's beauty hides incredible engineering. Beneath the square runs a network of channels that cool the air naturally. Using principles Persian architects perfected centuries ago. The mosque's dome creates acoustic effects so perfect that a whisper at the mihrab can be heard clearly anywhere in the vast space. Sound waves bounce off precisely calculated curves to eliminate echo, while amplifying the human voice. The surrounding bazaar forms a covered city of its own, with over 40 different trades, organized in networks that once connected China to Europe. The carpet section alone contains over 200 shops, where master weavers still create masterpieces that take years to complete. The metalwork section produces brass and copper items, using techniques unchanged since the Safavid period. Most travelers never see Isfahan's greatest secret, the Armenian quarter of New Julfa. Where Christian churches built in the Persian style preserve 400-year-old frescoes, depicting biblical scenes with Persian faces. Here, cultures that history books say where enemies lived and worked together, creating art that exists nowhere else on earth. The Vank Cathedral contains frescoes where Jesus and the apostles wear Persian clothing and inhabit landscapes that look like Iranian gardens. The artistic fusion represents the extraordinary tolerance of Shah Abbas the Great, who relocated an entire Armenian community from their homeland to enrich his capital city. The cathedral's library preserves thousands of Armenian manuscripts, including works on astronomy, medicine, and philosophy that bridge Persian and European intellectual traditions. These texts show how cultural exchange enriched both civilizations, when political barriers didn't prevent cooperation. For over 4,000 years, ships have sailed into Jaffa's ancient harbor, making this one of the world's oldest continuously operating ports. Here, according to biblical tradition, Jonah tried to flee from God before being swallowed by the great fish. Here, Lebanese cedar logs, destined for Solomon's temple, were unloaded onto these same stones you can walk on today. Archaeological excavations have revealed 20 different layers of civilization beneath Jaffa's streets. Egyptian scarabs from the 15th century BCE, Phoenician pottery, Persian period coins, Roman mosaics, Byzantine churches, Islamic palaces, Crusader fortifications, Ottoman administrative buildings. Each culture left its mark while adapting to the same geographical advantages. Napoleon's army landed here in 1799, beginning his disastrous Middle Eastern campaign. After capturing the city, Napoleon ordered the execution of thousands of Ottoman prisoners, a decision that haunted him for the rest of his life. Just over a century ago, the land north of ancient Jaffa was nothing but sand dunes stretching to the horizon. The transformation began in 1909, when 66 Jewish families gathered on a beach north of Jaffa to divide plots of sandy land by lottery. They used seashells to mark the plots, with white shells representing houses and gray shells representing families. They called their new neighborhood Tel Aviv, the Hill of Spring. Today, Tel Aviv contains the world's largest collection of Bauhaus architecture. Over 4,000 buildings designed by Jewish architects who fled Nazi Europe. The buildings use white and cream colors to reflect heat, flat roofs to collect rainwater, and ribbon windows to maximize airflow. Tel Aviv's real miracle isn't architectural, it's cultural. The city produces more patents per capita than any other place except Silicon Valley. This is a city that never sleeps, where beach culture meets high technology, where traditional Middle Eastern markets operate alongside cutting-edge startups. In the heart of Fars province stands Shiraz, the city that gave the world its greatest poets and most beautiful gardens. Here lie buried Hafez and Sadi, Persian poets whose words are quoted daily by Iranians, from taxi drivers to university professors. Hafez's tomb draws hundreds of thousands of visitors each year, making it one of Iran's most popular pilgrimage sites. The tomb of Hafez draws pilgrims who come not for religious purposes, but for poetry. Iranians open his collected works at random, believing his verses provide guidance for life's problems. This practice, called Fale Hafez, has been followed for 600 years. Foreign visitors watch in amazement as construction workers and bank executives alike recite his 700-year-old poetry from memory. Shiraz's greatest treasures grow in its gardens. The Eram garden represents the Persian concept of paradise made real. Water channels carved in geometric patterns create acoustic effects, that amplify flowing water while muffling city noise. The garden follows mathematical principles that create perfect harmony between architecture and nature. Rose gardens bloom in sequence throughout the year, ensuring that sweet fragrances always perfume the air. Every spring, families gather before dawn to pick rose petals that must be distilled within hours to preserve their fragrance. The rose water is so prized that a single bottle can cost more than gold by weight. The city also preserves the tomb of Saadi, whose poetry influenced writers from Goethe to Ralph Waldo Emerson. His most famous verse is inscribed at the United Nations. Human beings are members of a whole, in creation of one essence and soul. Modern Iran showcases remarkable achievements in science, medicine, and the arts, despite economic challenges. Iranian filmmakers win international awards. Iranian scientists contribute to fields from earthquake engineering to renewable energy. Iranian universities produce significant research in mathematics, astronomy, and environmental science. The same intellectual curiosity that made ancient Persia a center of learning drives modern Iranian innovation. Tehran's contemporary art scene blends traditional Persian motifs with modern expression. Young Iranian artists, musicians, and writers create works that resonate globally while staying rooted in Persian cultural traditions. Rising from the Mediterranean like a fortress carved from dreams stands Acre, the last great stronghold of the Crusader kingdoms. Here, for over a century, knights from across Europe built a city that rivaled Paris or London, complete with hospitals, markets, and harbors that could shelter hundreds of ships. Beneath Acre streets lies a hidden city, the Crusader Tunnels and halls that archaeologists have spent decades excavating. These underground passages once connected the harbor to fortified compounds, where the Knights Templar and Knights Hospitaller stored their treasures. The tunnel system extends for over half a mile, with chambers large enough to house entire knightly orders. Walking through these tunnels today, you can still see marks where medieval masons carved stones, hooks where they hung their weapons, and chambers where they planned their campaigns. The knights' halls could accommodate 350 knights for formal dinners, with acoustics designed so that a speaker at the head table could address the entire assembly. The end came swiftly and brutally. In 1291, the Mamluk Sultan al-Ashraf Khalil besieged Acre with 160,000 men and massive siege engines called mangonels. For 6 weeks, the defenders held out behind walls that had protected them for generations. The final assault began before dawn on May 18th, with Muslim armies attacking simultaneously from land and sea. When the walls finally fell, the age of Crusader kingdoms in the Holy Land ended forever. The The last Templar Grand Master, Guillaume de Beaujeu, died defending the walls. The last Hospitaller ship sailed from the harbor carrying refugees who would never return. Within hours, 200 years of Crusader rule had vanished. But Acre's story didn't end with the Crusaders. Under Ottoman rule, it became one of the Eastern Mediterranean's most important ports. The magnificent Khan al-Umdan, built in the 18th century, housed merchants from across the Ottoman Empire. Its 32 granite columns, taken from Roman ruins at Caesarea, supported galleries, where traders from 3 continents conducted business. Today, Acre is home to both Arabs and Jews who work together to preserve its incredible archaeological heritage. The city that once symbolized religious warfare now demonstrates how different communities can cooperate to protect their shared past. In the ancient Persian city of Hamadan stands a simple brick building that houses one of Judaism's most important pilgrimage sites, the tomb of Queen Esther and her cousin Mordechai, heroes of the Purim story who saved the Jewish people from genocide in ancient Persia. According to the book of Esther, this is where a young Jewish woman became queen to the Persian king Ahasuerus and used her position to prevent the extermination of her people. The story, celebrated annually during Purim, shows how a Persian ruler ultimately protected rather than persecuted the Jews under his rule. The tomb, with its brick dome and simple interior, has been maintained by Iranian Jews for generations. Hebrew inscriptions on the walls testify to centuries of pilgrimage. The oldest inscriptions date to the 13th century, showing continuous Jewish presence in Iran despite political changes. What makes this site extraordinary isn't just its biblical associations. It's what it represents about Iranian Jewish history. For over 2,500 years, Iran has maintained one of the Middle East's largest Jewish populations outside Israel. During Purim celebrations, Iranian Jews still gather at the tomb to read the Book of Esther. Standing in this simple tomb, surrounded by Hebrew prayers echoing in Persian air, you witness the human connections that transcend political tensions. But this raises a profound question. If Iran and Israel share such deep historical bonds, why do their governments view each other as enemies today? The answer lies in how the same geography that once united these civilizations now divides them. Iran's position controlling access between Europe, Asia, and the energy-rich Persian Gulf makes it a regional power that naturally seeks influence across the Middle East. Israel's location at the crossroads of 3 continents, combined with its technological capabilities, makes it a strategic ally for global powers seeking Middle Eastern influence. The ancient Persian Empire once stretched from India to Greece. and this imperial memory shapes how modern Iran views its role in the region. When Iranian leaders speak of their rightful sphere of influence, they're drawing on geographical claims that go back 2,500 years. The same protective mountains that allowed Persian culture to survive now house nuclear facilities that neighboring countries view with concern. Iran's nuclear program centers on facilities like Natanz, built in the same central Iranian plateau that protected ancient Persepolis. Israel's experience is the opposite. Centuries of exile followed by return have created a state that sees geography as both opportunity and vulnerability. The same narrow coastal plain that made ancient Israel a crossroads also makes modern Israel feel exposed to regional threats. When Israeli leaders speak of existential security concerns, they're responding to geographical realities that haven't changed since ancient times. By the late 20th century, these geographical tensions merged with ideological differences. Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution positioned the country as a champion of oppressed peoples worldwide, viewing Israel as a Western colonial outpost in Islamic lands. The two countries had been allies under the Shah, sharing intelligence and military cooperation. Iranian Jews held high positions in both countries' governments. But revolution changed everything, turning natural partners into sworn enemies almost overnight. Both countries see their nuclear programs through historical lenses shaped by geography and past experiences. Understanding these different historical perspectives doesn't require agreeing with either position. Today's headlines about nuclear programs and sanctions make perfect sense when viewed through geographical history. Iran sits astride the same trade routes that made it wealthy for millennia. Now they carry 20% of the world's oil through the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz, only 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, serves the same function as ancient mountain passes that Persian armies controlled. Just as Cyrus and Darius taxed caravans passing through their territory, modern Iran can threaten to close this waterway. That carries over $1 billion worth of oil daily. Geography remains the foundation of power. Israel's nuclear program, developed in the Negev desert, where ancient spice traders once crossed, represents similar geographical thinking that influenced ancient fortress builders like those at Masada. The conviction that survival requires strategic self-reliance rather than depending solely on distant allies. The Dimona reactor sits in the same desert where Jewish rebels made their last stand against Rome. When archaeologists excavate ancient Israeli fortifications, they find the same strategic thinking that drives modern security policies. Every mountain pass, every water source, every defensible position that ancient armies fought to control still matters in contemporary military planning. The irony is profound. Two countries with histories of cultural exchange and mutual benefit now view each other as existential threats. The same Lebanese mountains that sheltered Persian armies now hide Hezbollah rockets funded by Tehran. Syria serves as the crucial link in Iran's regional strategy, just as it did for ancient Persian empires. The same Damascus road that Persian armies traveled to reach the coast now carries Iranian weapons to Lebanese proxies. Yet even today, the ancient connections persist beneath political tensions. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of modern Iran-Israel tensions is how political geography has divided people who share deep cultural connections. The Persian Jewish community that thrived in Iran for 2,500 years has been caught between their Iranian identity and Jewish faith. Many have emigrated to Israel, carrying Persian culture, but unable to visit family members who remained behind. In Israel today, hundreds of thousands of citizens trace their heritage to Iranian Jewish communities. They maintain Persian traditions, cooking Fesenjan stew, celebrating Nowruz, speaking Farsi at home, while serving in an army that views Iran as its primary threat. Their existence proves that Iranian and Israeli cultures can coexist, even as their governments cannot. Los Angeles has become the unofficial capital of the Iranian Jewish diaspora, home to a large Persian Jewish community who maintain connections to both Iran and Israel. In Beverly Hills synagogues, prayers are conducted in Persian accented Hebrew, while congregants discuss relatives in both Tehran and Tel Aviv. They represent what cooperation could look like if politics didn't intervene. The geographical separation enforced by political tensions has frozen relationships in time. Iranian Jews who emigrated to Israel in the 1950s maintain traditions that have since changed in Iran itself. Israeli Persians preserve classical Persian poetry that young Iranians may not know. As we approach the end of our geographic journey, the question remains: can the geographical forces that once brought these civilizations together overcome the political dynamics that now divide them? Both countries face environmental challenges that ignore political boundaries: water scarcity, climate change, seismic activity. The same geographical realities that shaped their ancient civilizations now demand cooperation on issues that transcend national borders. Iranian water management expertise and Israeli desalination technology could potentially help address regional water challenges that affect millions. The Dead Sea, shared between Israel and Jordan, continues shrinking at approximately 3 feet per year. Iranian expertise in desert agriculture, developed over millennia in the Lut Desert, combined with Israeli innovations in drip irrigation, could potentially help address regional water challenges. But political tensions prevent the cooperation that geography demands. Climate change affects both countries in ways that ancient peoples never faced. Iran's traditional agricultural regions experience more frequent droughts, forcing farmers to rediscover ancient techniques for desert cultivation. Israel's coastal cities adapt to rising sea levels. Using engineering principles that go back to ancient Mediterranean builders. Perhaps most importantly, the archaeological sites that tell the story of Iranian-Israeli connection continue to yield new discoveries. Each ancient Persian coin found in Jerusalem, each Hebrew inscription discovered in Iran, reminds us that political borders are temporary while geographical and cultural connections endure. The same trade routes that enrich both civilizations could do so again. The same cultural exchanges that created architectural and artistic treasures could resume. The same geographical advantages that made both countries regional powers could be shared rather than contested. And so, our journey through these ancient lands comes to an end. From Cyrus's simple tomb to Daniel's lion's den. From the silver star in Bethlehem's cave to the pirate queen's harbor. We've walked with Persian kings who freed Jewish exiles, with Jewish rebels who chose death over slavery, with Christian pilgrims who found God in a cave, with Crusader knights who made their last stand by the sea. We've descended into hidden chambers beneath Persepolis, explored tunnels under Jerusalem's streets, touched stones that weigh more than modern buildings, stood where archaeologists are still making discoveries that rewrite history. These lands teach us that geography shapes everything. Mountains create cultures of patience and artistry. Crossroads foster adaptation and innovation. Deserts inspire engineering marvels and spiritual insights. From Zoroastrian fire temples to Jewish prayer walls, from Christian grottos to Islamic mosques, each faith has found sacred space in landscapes that seem designed to inspire wonder. The same flames that burned for Zoroaster still flicker in Yazd. The same stones that heard Jesus' birth cries still shelter pilgrims. The same techniques that built Persian palaces still inspire modern architects. For travelers, Iran and Israel offer something you can't experience anywhere else. The chance to see how geographical destiny unfolds over millennia. You can touch stones carved by Persian craftsmen who worked for Cyrus the Great. Then visit modern Iranian universities, where students develop technologies that could change the world. You can walk the same Jerusalem streets where prophets preached. Then explore Tel Aviv neighborhoods, where entrepreneurs are creating the future. Most importantly, these lands teach us that understanding geography means understanding humanity itself. Location shapes culture, landscape influences innovation, and the natural world provides both challenges and opportunities that bring out human creativity and resilience. This is more than ancient history or modern politics. This is the ongoing story of how human beings adapt to their environment and transform geographical challenges into cultural achievements. This is Iran and Israel, two ancient lands where geography made history, where the past informs the present, and where travelers can still experience wonders that connect us to the deepest roots of human civilization. Geography is destiny. Culture is adaptation. Travel is understanding. When possible and practical, discover these connections for yourself. Explore the extraordinary landscapes that shaped our world. See you in the next adventure.